The morning sun cast long shadows across the Afghan mountain range as Marine Corporal Sarah Mitchell adjusted her gear for what seemed like the 100th time. At 24, she had already completed 2 tours, but this mission felt different. The intelligence report spoke of a high-value target hiding in a remote compound, and the stakes had never been higher. Sarah checked her rifle one final time, running her fingers along the familiar metal that had become an extension of herself over the past 3 years. Growing up in rural Montana, she had learned to shoot before she could properly ride a bike. Her father, a retired Army veteran, had taught her that respect for weapons came before everything else. Those lessons had served her well in the Marines, where she quickly earned a reputation as one of the finest marksmen in her unit. The helicopter ride to the insertion point had been tense. Sitting across from her were members of SEAL Team 6, elite operators whose very presence indicated the critical nature of their mission. Among them was Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez, a decorated sniper with over 15 years of experience. His weathered face told stories of countless operations, and his calm demeanor had a way of steadying everyone around him. As the aircraft approached the landing zone, Sarah noticed Rodriguez studying her with curious eyes. She had heard whispers that the SEALs were skeptical about working with regular Marine units, especially when it involved a female Marine in a forward combat role. The military had only recently opened all combat positions to women, and Sarah knew she was being watched carefully by both allies and critics. The helicopter touched down in a cloud of dust and debris. Within seconds, the team was moving across the rocky terrain toward their objective. Sarah's role was to provide overwatch from a designated position, while the SEALs moved in to capture or eliminate the target. It was a standard supporting role, but one that required absolute precision and nerves of steel. The compound sat nestled between 2 steep ridges, offering natural protection, but also creating a tactical nightmare for approaching forces. Intelligence suggested that the target, a bomb maker responsible for numerous attacks on coalition forces, had chosen this location specifically for its defensive advantages. The team would need to move quickly and quietly to avoid detection. As they approached the overwatch position, Rodriguez suddenly raised his hand, signaling the team to halt. Through his scope, he had spotted movement on the ridgeline opposite their position. Enemy fighters were setting up what appeared to be a heavy machine gun emplacement, positioning themselves to cover the very route the SEALs needed to take. The mission commander's voice crackled through their radio headsets, confirming what they all suspected. The intelligence had been compromised. Instead of finding their target sleeping peacefully, they had walked into a carefully prepared ambush. The enemy knew they were coming and had positioned fighters at multiple points around the compound. Sarah felt her heart rate increase as the reality of their situation became clear. They were outnumbered and caught in a potentially deadly crossfire. The original plan would need to be abandoned, and quick thinking would be required to prevent the mission from becoming a disaster. Rodriguez continued to observe the enemy positions through his scope, calculating distances and angles with the practiced eye of a master sniper. Sarah watched him work, noting how he seemed to process multiple variables simultaneously. Wind speed, temperature, elevation differences, and target movement patterns all factored into his mental calculations. The enemy machine gun team was now fully operational, sweeping their weapon back and forth across the approach routes. Any attempt by the SEALs to advance would result in devastating casualties. The mission hung in the balance, and critical decisions needed to be made in the next few minutes. Rodriguez lowered his rifle and turned to look at Sarah directly. In that moment, she saw something in his eyes that she had never encountered before from a fellow service member. It was not doubt or skepticism, but rather a careful assessment of capability and potential. He had been watching her throughout their approach, noting her movement, her weapon handling, and her composure under pressure. The SEAL team leader's voice came through the radio again, requesting immediate options for dealing with the machine gun position. Standard protocol would be to call for air support or artillery, but the proximity of civilian structures made such options impossible. They needed a precision solution, and they needed it quickly. Sarah found herself studying the same target that had captured Rodriguez's attention. The machine gun position was approximately 800 meters away, positioned behind a low stone wall with limited exposure. It would require an extremely difficult shot, threading between obstacles and accounting for significant environmental factors. As she calculated the shot parameters in her mind, Sarah became aware that Rodriguez was now watching her intently. She could sense that he was weighing options that went far beyond standard operating procedures. The situation demanded unconventional thinking, and conventional wisdom about unit roles and capabilities might need to be set aside. The enemy fighters seemed to be growing more confident, beginning to move more openly as they prepared for what they believed would be an easy engagement. Time was running out and the element of surprise would soon be lost entirely. Whatever decision was going to be made needed to happen in the next few moments. Rodriguez continued his silent assessment of both the tactical situation and the Marine corporal beside him. Years of experience had taught him to recognize exceptional skill when he saw it, regardless of rank, unit affiliation, or gender. The question now was whether he was willing to bet the success of the mission and potentially the lives of his teammates on that assessment. Rodriguez made a decision that would change everything. Without saying a word, he began to remove his specialized sniper rifle from his shoulder. The weapon was a custom-modified system worth more than most people's cars, equipped with advanced optics and precision components that had been fine-tuned for his specific shooting style over years of operations. Sarah watched in stunned silence as the veteran SEAL began to hand her his primary weapon. This was unprecedented. SEALs guarded their personal equipment jealously, and the idea of passing such a critical tool to someone outside their unit violated numerous unwritten rules of special operations culture. 800 meters. Slight crosswind from the northwest. Target is mobile behind intermittent cover. Rodriguez whispered, his voice barely audible even at close range. Single shot opportunity, maybe two if we're lucky. Miss and we all die here. The weight of his words hit Sarah like a physical blow. This was not a training exercise or a controlled environment where mistakes could be corrected. The lives of elite operators depended on her ability to make an impossible shot under combat conditions with an unfamiliar weapon system. Sarah accepted the rifle with hands that remained remarkably steady despite the enormous pressure. The weapon felt different from her standard Marine-issue rifle, heavier but also more balanced. The scope was more advanced than anything she had used before, with features and adjustments that would normally require extensive training to master. Rodriguez positioned himself beside her, becoming her spotter in an arrangement that defied all conventional military hierarchy. A Navy SEAL chief petty officer was now supporting a Marine corporal in what was arguably the most critical shot of the entire operation. The other team members watched in disbelief, but none questioned the decision. They trusted Rodriguez's judgment completely. Range is 793 meters. Wind is 4 miles per hour at 2 o'clock. Temperature is 68 degrees. Rodriguez provided the environmental data with clinical precision. Target will be exposed for approximately 3 seconds when he moves to adjust the machine gun position. Sarah settled into a prone position behind the rifle, adjusting her body to achieve the most stable shooting platform possible. The rocky ground was unforgiving, but she had trained extensively in similar conditions during her time at the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center. Every lesson her instructors had drilled into her mind was now critically important. Through the advanced scope, Sarah could see the enemy position with remarkable clarity. The machine gun team consisted of 3 fighters, with the primary gunner currently concealed behind the stone wall. She could see movement as they prepared to engage targets that had not yet appeared. Unaware that they themselves were now being hunted, the mission commander's voice came through the radio again, more urgent this time. The SEALs needed to begin their assault on the compound within the next 5 minutes, or the window of opportunity would close completely. Other enemy reinforcements were reportedly moving toward the area, and staying in position much longer would become untenable. Rodriguez continued to provide guidance, but Sarah noticed that his tone had shifted. He was no longer giving orders or instructions, but rather offering suggestions to a fellow professional. The change was subtle but significant, indicating that he now viewed her as a peer rather than someone who needed to be managed or directed. Sarah began to control her breathing, slowing her heart rate and entering the focused mental state that had served her well in previous engagements. The world around her seemed to fade away, leaving only the target, the rifle, and the complex calculations required to make the shot successful. Years of training had prepared her for this moment, but nothing could have prepared her for the weight of responsibility she now carried. The enemy gunner moved slightly, adjusting his position behind the machine gun. Through the scope, Sarah could see that he was young, probably no older than herself. For a brief moment, the human reality of what she was about to do broke through her professional focus. This was someone's son, perhaps someone's brother or father, and her next action would end his life. Rodriguez seemed to sense her momentary hesitation. "He's killed Marines, soldiers, and civilians," he said quietly. "Good people who deserve to go home to their families. This is why we're here." The reminder helped Sarah refocus on the mission. She had not traveled thousands of miles from home to hesitate when decisive action was required. The enemy machine gun position represented a clear and immediate threat to her fellow service members, and eliminating that threat was her duty. The wind shifted slightly, and Rodriguez immediately provided the updated information. Sarah made the necessary adjustments to her scope, compensating for the changing environmental conditions. The shot would need to be perfect, as there would likely be no opportunity for a follow-up attempt. The enemy gunner began to move again, preparing to reposition his weapon for better coverage of the approach routes. Sarah tracked his movement through the scope, waiting for the moment when he would be most exposed. Patience was critical, as rushing the shot would almost certainly result in failure. Other members of the SEAL team were now watching the drama unfold, recognizing that the success or failure of their entire mission rested on the shoulders of a Marine they had met only hours earlier. The weight of their expectations was enormous, but Sarah forced herself to block out everything except the target and the shot. Rodriguez made one final range calculation, confirming the distance and providing Sarah with the exact holdover required for the shot. She adjusted her point of aim accordingly, placing the crosshairs slightly above and to the left of where she wanted the bullet to impact. The physics of long-range shooting required such compensation, accounting for bullet drop and wind drift over the extended distance. The moment arrived with sudden clarity. The enemy gunner stepped out from behind his cover, moving to adjust the machine gun's position. Sarah could see him clearly through the scope, his entire torso exposed for what would likely be only a few seconds. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for, and it might not come again. Sarah's finger found the trigger, applying steady pressure while maintaining perfect sight alignment. The rifle's advanced trigger system was more sensitive than what she was accustomed to, requiring a delicate touch to avoid disrupting her aim. Every muscle in her body remained perfectly still as she prepared to take the shot that would determine the fate of the entire mission. The crosshairs settled on their target, just as the enemy gunner paused in his movement. For a split second, everything was perfectly aligned. Distance, wind compensation, breathing cycle, and target exposure all came together in a moment of absolute clarity that every sniper dreams of achieving. Sarah gently squeezed the trigger. The rifle recoiled against her shoulder with authority, sending a precisely crafted bullet racing across the 800 meters of mountain air toward its target. The suppressed weapon made significantly less noise than Sarah's standard rifle, but the sharp crack of the bullet breaking the sound barrier was still audible to anyone listening carefully. Through the scope, Sarah watched as the bullet found its mark with devastating accuracy. The enemy gunner collapsed immediately, struck center mass exactly where she had aimed. The shot had been perfect, threading between obstacles and compensating flawlessly for all environmental factors. Rodriguez's whispered "good hit" confirmed what she already knew. The remaining enemy fighters at the machine gun position immediately scrambled for cover, shouting warnings to their comrades throughout the compound. The element of surprise was now gone, but the immediate threat to the advancing SEALs had been eliminated. The mission could proceed as planned, thanks to a single perfectly placed shot. Rodriguez reclaimed his rifle with a nod of professional respect. "Outstanding shooting, Marine," he said, his voice carrying genuine admiration. That was a career shot under impossible conditions. The praise from such an experienced operator meant more to Sarah than any commendation or medal could have. The SEAL team immediately began their assault on the compound, moving with the fluid precision that had made them legendary. Sarah provided overwatch as originally planned, but now with the confidence that came from having proven herself under the most demanding circumstances imaginable. The doubt and skepticism she had sensed earlier had been replaced by complete trust. The compound raid proceeded with clockwork efficiency. The SEALs moved from building to building, clearing rooms and searching for their high-value target. Sarah's role was to watch for enemy reinforcements and provide covering fire if the assault team encountered unexpected resistance. Her earlier shot had eliminated the primary threat, but dangers remained throughout the area. Through her scope, Sarah observed the professional manner in which the SEALs conducted their operation. Every movement was deliberate and coordinated, with each team member knowing exactly what was expected of them. This was the result of countless hours of training and real-world experience, refined through dozens of similar missions. The target building was larger than the others, a two-story structure that dominated the center of the compound. Intelligence reports suggested that the bomb maker they sought would be found on the upper floor, likely with additional security measures and possible escape routes. The SEALs approached the building with increased caution, knowing that their quarry would not surrender easily. Rodriguez had moved to a different position to provide close support for the assault team, but he remained in radio contact with Sarah. Their brief partnership had created a mutual respect that transcended unit boundaries and rank structures. Both professionals recognized exceptional skill when they encountered it. Regardless of the uniform being worn, the first explosion came without warning, erupting from the target building in a massive fireball that sent debris flying in all directions. The bomb maker had apparently prepared a final surprise for anyone who came looking for him, turning his hideout into a deadly trap. The blast was powerful enough to shake the ground where Sarah lay observing from her distant position. Through her scope, Sarah could see SEAL team members moving away from the burning building, but she could not immediately determine if anyone had been injured in the explosion. Radio communications were temporarily disrupted by the blast, leaving her unable to contact Rodriguez or the mission commander for precious seconds that felt like hours. As the smoke and dust began to clear, Sarah spotted movement near the rear of the compound. A figure was climbing over the back wall, apparently attempting to escape in the confusion following the explosion. The person was carrying what appeared to be a large backpack and moving with the urgency of someone fleeing for their life. Sarah adjusted her scope to get a better view of the escaping figure. The image was partially obscured by smoke and debris, but she could see enough to determine that this was likely their primary target. The bomb maker was attempting to slip away while his pursuers dealt with the aftermath of his booby trap. The range to the fleeing target was approximately 600 meters, a more manageable distance than her previous shot, but complicated by the moving target and limited visibility. Sarah would need to lead the target properly, accounting for his speed and direction, while also compensating for the environmental factors that affected long-range shooting. Rodriguez's voice suddenly crackled through her headset, urgent but controlled. "Sarah, we have a runner heading north from the compound carrying what looks like bomb-making materials. Can you see him?" The confirmation that this was indeed their target added new urgency to the situation. "I have eyes on the target," Sarah responded, tracking the figure through her scope as he continued to move across the rocky terrain, 600 meters and increasing, moving northeast toward the ridgeline. "I can take the shot if you want him stopped." The mission commander's voice joined the conversation, providing immediate authorization for Sarah to engage the fleeing target. The bomb maker could not be allowed to escape with his knowledge and materials, which would undoubtedly be used to create more devastating attacks against coalition forces and innocent civilians. Sarah settled into her shooting position once again, this time with the confidence that came from having already proven her capabilities under pressure. The shot would be challenging due to the target's movement, but it was well within her demonstrated abilities. She began to track the figure through her scope, calculating the lead required to intercept him. The target was moving at a steady pace across terrain that offered limited cover. He seemed to believe that the explosion had successfully eliminated his pursuers and was not taking evasive action. This overconfidence would prove to be a fatal mistake, as Sarah prepared to deliver the precision that would end his bomb-making career permanently. Sarah calculated the moving target's speed and trajectory, applying the lessons learned from countless hours on shooting ranges back home. Hunting moving deer in Montana had taught her to lead targets naturally, and those skills translated perfectly to this life-or-death situation. The bomb maker was moving at approximately 8 miles per hour across uneven terrain, requiring her to aim several feet ahead of his current position. The environmental conditions remained challenging, with swirling winds created by the explosion and the mountainous terrain. Sarah made subtle adjustments to her scope, accounting for the changing air currents that could push her bullet off course. The target was now 700 meters away and climbing, steadily toward a ridge that would provide him with complete concealment if he reached. Rodriguez's voice provided encouragement through her headset. "You've got this, Marine. Same fundamentals as before, just account for his movement. I've seen you shoot, and I know you can make this happen." The confidence of the veteran SEAL helped steady Sarah's nerves as she prepared for what might be an even more difficult shot than her first. Through her scope, Sarah could see that the target was carrying more than just a backpack. Multiple containers were strapped to his body, likely containing explosive materials and bomb-making components that could not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. Stopping him was not just about completing the mission, but about preventing future attacks that could kill dozens of innocent people. The target paused briefly to look back at the burning compound, giving Sarah a momentary opportunity for a stationary shot. However, the pause lasted only a few seconds before he resumed his urgent climb toward the ridgeline. Sarah held her fire, recognizing that a hasty shot would likely miss and alert the target to the danger he faced. Other SEAL team members had now emerged from the compound and were attempting to pursue the fleeing bomb maker on foot. However, the distance and terrain made it impossible for them to catch up before he reached the safety of the ridgeline. Sarah's rifle represented their only realistic chance of stopping him before he disappeared into the vast mountain wilderness. The target's route took him across a section of open ground that offered no cover or concealment. This would be Sarah's best opportunity for a clean shot, but the window was rapidly closing. She estimated that she had perhaps 30 seconds before he would reach a boulder field that would make accurate shooting nearly impossible. Sarah controlled her breathing and settled deeper into her shooting position. The rifle felt completely natural in her hands now, as if it had been designed specifically for her use. Rodriguez's weapon was perfectly zeroed and maintained, giving her every possible advantage for making the critical shot that the mission demanded. The crosshairs tracked smoothly across the target as Sarah calculated the precise lead required. The distance was now approximately 650 meters, with the target moving at a consistent pace toward the ridgeline. Environmental conditions remained stable, with only minor wind corrections required for bullet drift. Rodriguez continued to observe through his spotting scope, ready to provide immediate feedback on the shot's impact. The partnership that had developed between the Navy SEAL and Marine Corporal was unprecedented, but it was producing results that exceeded what either could have achieved individually. The target reached the edge of the open ground and paused again, this time to adjust his equipment before entering the boulder field. This second pause provided Sarah with the stationary target she needed, and she immediately recognized that this was likely her last opportunity for a high-probability shot. Sarah placed her crosshairs on the target's center mass and began her final trigger squeeze. The shot sequence felt identical to her first success, with every element coming together in perfect harmony. The rifle recoiled smoothly against her shoulder, sending another precisely aimed bullet toward its intended target. The impact was immediate and decisive. The target collapsed behind a large rock, his escape attempt ended by Sarah's second perfect shot of the day. Rodriguez confirmed the hit through his spotting scope, reporting that the bomb maker was down and would not be continuing his flight toward the ridgeline. The SEAL pursuit team changed direction immediately, moving toward the location where the target had fallen. Within minutes, they would secure the area and recover both the bomb maker and the dangerous materials he had been carrying. The mission was essentially complete, thanks to the exceptional marksmanship displayed by an unlikely partnership. Sarah felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion as the immediate pressure of the situation lifted. She had made 2 incredibly difficult shots under combat conditions, each one critical to the mission's success. The weight of responsibility that had pressed down on her for the past hour began to ease as she realized that her fellow service members were now safe. Rodriguez approached her position with a broad smile on his weathered face. "Marine, I've been doing this for 15 years and I've never seen shooting like that," he said with genuine admiration. 2 for 2 at extended range under combat conditions with an unfamiliar weapon system. That's the kind of performance that legends are made of. The praise from such an experienced operator was overwhelming, but Sarah remained focused on the practical aspects of their situation. The mission was not yet complete, and they still needed to extract from the area safely. Enemy reinforcements could arrive at any time, and staying in position longer than necessary would increase their risk unnecessarily. The mission commander's voice came through their headsets, confirming that the target had been secured along with significant intelligence materials. The bomb maker was still alive but severely wounded, and the medical team was working to stabilize him for evacuation. The materials he had been carrying included detailed plans for future attacks, making his capture even more valuable than originally anticipated. Sarah began to pack her equipment, preparing for the helicopter extraction that would take them back to base. The adrenaline that had sustained her through the intense engagement was beginning to fade, leaving her with a clearer understanding of what she had accomplished. In the span of 1 hour, she had exceeded every expectation and proven herself capable of performing at the highest levels of military professionalism. Rodriguez helped her secure her gear, continuing to offer words of encouragement and professional respect. The bond that had formed between them during the mission would likely last for the remainder of their careers, built on mutual trust and shared success under the most demanding circumstances possible. As they waited for the extraction helicopter, Sarah reflected on the events of the day. She had begun the mission as a supporting player, expected to provide basic overwatch while the elite operators handled the dangerous work. She was ending it as a proven combat veteran who had earned the respect of some of the military's most experienced professionals. The extraction helicopter arrived exactly on schedule, its rotors churning up clouds of dust and debris as it settled onto the designated landing zone. Sarah gathered her equipment and prepared to board, still processing the magnitude of what had occurred during the mission. The transition from combat operations back to routine military transport felt surreal after the intensity of the previous hours. As the team loaded onto the aircraft, Rodriguez made an unexpected announcement to the helicopter crew. "This Marine just made 2 of the finest combat shots I've ever witnessed," he declared loud enough for everyone to hear. 800 meters and 650, both perfect hits under pressure. "I wanted everyone to know what kind of warrior we have with us." The helicopter crew, composed of experienced aviators who had seen countless special operations missions, looked at Sarah with obvious interest and respect. Word of exceptional performance traveled quickly in military circles, especially when it involved overcoming significant challenges under combat conditions. Sarah felt both proud and slightly overwhelmed by the attention. During the flight back to base, Rodriguez shared details about his own military career and the path that had led him to special operations. He spoke about the importance of recognizing exceptional talent regardless of rank, unit, or background. His willingness to trust Sarah with his weapon had been based on careful observation and professional intuition, but the results had exceeded even his optimistic expectations. Sarah learned that Rodriguez had been awarded numerous decorations for valor during his career, including several for actions similar to what they had just experienced together. His reputation within the special operations community was legendary, making his praise even more meaningful. The respect of such an accomplished professional was worth more than any formal recognition could provide. The conversation during the flight revealed the broader significance of their successful mission. The bomb maker they had captured was responsible for numerous attacks that had killed or wounded dozens of coalition personnel and civilians. The intelligence materials recovered from his hideout would likely prevent additional attacks and save countless lives in the months to come. Sarah also learned that her 2 shots had been observed and recorded by military analysts using advanced surveillance equipment. The footage would be studied extensively, both for its tactical lessons and as an example of exceptional marksmanship under combat conditions. Her performance would become part of the official record, available for future training and analysis. As the helicopter approached their base, Rodriguez made Sarah an offer that would change the trajectory of her military career. "I'm going to recommend you for evaluation by our sniper training program," he said seriously. "What you did today goes beyond natural talent. With proper training and equipment, you could become one of the finest precision shooters in the military." The offer was both exciting and intimidating. Selection for elite sniper training was extraordinarily competitive, with failure rates exceeding 90%. However, Rodriguez's recommendation would carry enormous weight with the selection board, and her documented performance during the mission would speak for itself. The opportunity to train with the military's best marksmen was a dream she had never dared to pursue. Sarah expressed her interest in the opportunity, while acknowledging the challenges it would present. The training would be physically and mentally demanding, requiring her to push beyond limits she had never tested. However, the events of the day had shown her that she was capable of performing at levels she had not previously imagined possible. The helicopter touched down at their forward operating base, where news of the successful mission had already spread throughout the facility. Sarah was surprised to find that word of her shooting performance had preceded their arrival, carried by radio communications from the mission commander to base personnel. The attention was unexpected but not unwelcome. Over the following days, Sarah found herself the subject of considerable interest from fellow service members who wanted to hear details about the mission. She was careful to emphasize the team effort involved and Rodriguez's critical role in providing guidance and support. The success had been achieved through collaboration and mutual trust rather than individual heroics. The formal mission debrief took place 3 days after their return, with senior officers from multiple units in attendance. Sarah's shooting performance was analyzed in detail, with particular attention paid to her ability to adapt quickly to an unfamiliar weapon system under extreme pressure. The consensus was that her performance represented exceptional skill, combined with outstanding mental toughness. Rodriguez's formal recommendation for sniper training was submitted within a week of their return. The document contained detailed analysis of Sarah's shooting technique, decision-making under pressure, and ability to function effectively with elite units. His endorsement carried the weight of his own reputation and 15 years of special operations experience. The recommendation was accompanied by video footage of both shots, along with technical analysis of the environmental conditions and degree of difficulty involved. Military shooting instructors who reviewed the material were unanimous in their assessment that Sarah's performance represented truly exceptional marksmanship that deserved further development. Sarah received notification of her acceptance into the sniper training program 6 weeks after the mission. The selection board had been impressed not only by her documented shooting ability, but also by her composure under pressure and her ability to function effectively with special operations personnel. She would begin the demanding course within 2 months. The news brought congratulations from throughout her unit, but the most meaningful response came from Rodriguez himself. "I knew from the moment I watched you calculate that first shot that you had something special," he told her during a phone conversation. "This is just the beginning of what you can accomplish with the right training and opportunities." As Sarah prepared for the next phase of her military career, she reflected on the lessons learned during that pivotal mission in Afghanistan, the importance of staying ready for unexpected opportunities, the value of earning trust through demonstrated competence, and the power of recognizing exceptional skill regardless of preconceptions about rank or background. The young Marine from Montana who had grown up hunting deer with her father had evolved into a combat-proven marksman capable of performing at the highest levels of military professionalism. The partnership with Rodriguez had shown her what was possible when experienced professionals worked together based on mutual respect and shared commitment to mission success. Rodriguez's decision to hand her his rifle had been based on careful observation and professional judgment, but it had also represented a willingness to look beyond traditional boundaries and hierarchies. The success of their partnership demonstrated the importance of recognizing talent wherever it might be found and providing opportunities for exceptional individuals to prove themselves under demanding conditions. 2 years later, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School, watching new students struggle through their first week of training. She wore the distinctive uniform of a certified military sniper instructor, having not only completed the elite program, but excelled to the point where she was now responsible for training the next generation of precision shooters. The path from that mountainside in Afghanistan to her current position had been challenging beyond anything she had previously experienced. The sniper training program had pushed her to physical and mental limits she had not known existed, but Rodriguez's prediction about her potential had proven accurate. She had graduated at the top of her class, setting new records for marksmanship accuracy that still stood 2 years later. During her time in the program, Sarah had been mentored by some of the military's finest instructors, including several who had worked closely with Rodriguez over the years. The special operations community was smaller than most people realized, and word of her Afghanistan performance had spread throughout the network of elite professionals who comprised the military's precision shooting community. Her first assignment as a qualified sniper had taken her back to Afghanistan, where she worked directly with special operations units on missions similar to the one where she had first proven herself. The irony was not lost on her that she was now regularly performing the exact role that Rodriguez had originally filled, providing precision shooting support for high-value target missions throughout the region. During one particularly memorable mission, Sarah had the opportunity to work alongside Rodriguez again, this time as equals within the special operations community. The veteran SEAL expressed obvious pride in her transformation, from promising Marine to elite military sniper, noting that her success validated his decision to take a chance on an unknown quantity during that crucial mission 2 years earlier. Their second partnership had been even more successful than their first, with Sarah providing precision shooting support that allowed Rodriguez's team to complete a complex hostage rescue operation without casualties. The roles had evolved since Afghanistan, but the mutual respect and professional trust between them remained as strong as ever. Sarah's reputation within the military had grown steadily as she completed increasingly difficult missions with consistent success. Her combination of technical shooting skill and tactical intelligence made her a valuable asset for operations requiring precision and discretion. Senior commanders throughout the theater of operations specifically requested her support for their most challenging missions. The transition to instructor duty had come as a natural progression of her career, allowing her to share the knowledge and experience gained through 2 years of combat operations with students who would soon face similar challenges. Teaching other Marines to achieve the same level of precision that had made her successful was both rewarding and demanding work. Sarah's students were a diverse group representing the full spectrum of military backgrounds and experience levels. Some arrived with extensive shooting experience, while others had barely qualified with their basic weapons systems. Her job was to identify those with the potential for exceptional performance and provide them with the tools needed to succeed in the most demanding situations. The training philosophy she employed drew heavily from the lessons learned during her partnership with Rodriguez. The importance of recognizing talent regardless of preconceptions, the value of providing opportunities for exceptional individuals to prove themselves, and the power of mentorship in developing professional capability were central themes in her instruction. Rodriguez visited the school periodically as a guest instructor, sharing his decades of special operations experience with students who regarded him as a living legend. During these visits, he would inevitably tell the story of their first mission together, emphasizing the importance of staying ready for unexpected opportunities and the value of trusting professional judgment over conventional wisdom. The story had become something of a legend within the military community, representing the kind of performance that was possible when preparation met opportunity under the most demanding circumstances. Students would listen with obvious fascination as Rodriguez described his decision to hand his rifle to an unknown Marine and the remarkable results that followed. Sarah's influence extended beyond her formal duties as an instructor. She had become an advocate for expanding opportunities for female service members in combat roles, speaking at military conferences and contributing to policy discussions about integrating women into previously restricted positions. Her own success provided powerful evidence that exceptional performance was not limited by gender. The young Marines who graduated from her courses carried forward the lessons she had learned about recognizing potential and providing opportunities for growth. Many went on to distinguished careers in special operations, crediting Sarah's instruction with preparing them for the challenges they encountered in combat operations around the world. As Sarah watched her current class of students practice the fundamental techniques that would determine their success or failure in future missions, she reflected on the unexpected path that had brought her to this position. A single moment of trust from an experienced professional had opened doors she had never imagined walking through. The rifle that Rodriguez had handed her in Afghanistan had been returned long ago, but the impact of that gesture continued to shape her career and influence every student she taught. The willingness to look beyond conventional expectations and recognize exceptional potential had created opportunities that benefited not only Sarah herself, but every Marine who learned from her experience. Years later, when students asked about the secret to achieving exceptional performance under pressure, Sarah would tell them about the importance of staying ready for opportunities that might arrive without warning. She would emphasize that reputation was built through consistent preparation and the willingness to accept challenges that pushed beyond comfort zones. The partnership between a Navy SEAL and a Marine that had begun on a mountainside in Afghanistan had evolved into something much larger than either participant had originally envisioned. It had become a testament to the power of recognizing talent, providing opportunities, and trusting professional judgment over conventional wisdom in developing the military's finest warriors.